The serious problem. That's the allergy. It's kind of shrimp allergy. If someone who has the allergy from the shrimp, no. So that's why I have to select the natural ingredient, especially for the allergic person, and maybe for Indian patients too, vegetarians. That's the natural ingredient. No animal proteins included. But I don't know against the drugs or the insulin injections, just kind of food supplements. So it'll be supplied to the as a food for the patient, so the better cells. And then I was not intended to make the better cell regeneration, but before the actual experiments at the university hospital, from the patients we have several data. Their conditions really serious. As you see, their C-peptide level was lower than 0.5, 0.4, but just 2-3 months or 3 months later, every month, if he or she wants to purchase or receive the D&D from me, they have to submit the data, monthly data from the clinical center or the hospitals. So we analyzed every data monthly basis. His or her C-peptide was level nearly 0.3 or 4. But how abruptly increased to 0.7 and 8? And the insulin is increased rapidly. So that's why that was the assumptions that, oh, maybe I can solve this problem. C-peptide level irreversible, and then T1DM, even without the medications and insulin injections also. So we focus on the people who are suffering from the serious complications. Those are T1DM patients. So we get data from the nearly 50 clinical centers. In Korea, we can go to nearly every day or every month to the center. So the information from the data of the health center or the clinics or the hospitals, that's why we're competent to decide, okay, let's go to the check the beta cell regeneration. That is the starting point of my research for T1DM patients.
Can you show us the last slide, please? Last slide.
Lee,
Oh,
the last
summary of the destroyed pancreatic beta cells, both in animals and humans too. For animals, and here everybody to the audience, here are all of you are the experts, and then the medical professors and the endocrinologists and the dietitians. So I'd like to know how many of you will think the possibility of regeneration in destroyed pancreatic beta cells. So would you raise your hand? Regenerative. Okay. And what about the irreversible? None. Not possible. Non-curable. Just one? Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm talking about today, it is possible, and then we can irreversible, and then curable. So in Korea, the experts, every expert's reaction was very criticized on me when I declared the research, and then all of them, they thought to be, they are deceived. But when I showed the in vivo result, very positive result, and then they were very suspicious, and then some of them told me it is kind of exaggerated advertisement. But when I released the human results, regardless of the type 1 DM or type 2 DM, they were really stunned. So I hope in the near future people will say this about my result sooner or later, and then kind of paradigm shift. So I'm talking about here, about DND efficacy. Here, if I say just in a word, DND is kind of game changer, I can say. You know why? You will see from the result of the human beings. Because I think in a sense, no more medications, and then no more insulin injections, and then no more electronic pumps are needed, I think. And then of course, no more complications and hypoglycemia during the day and night. Here, this is Dr. Rajesh Jain. We met at Abu Dhabi Diabetic Conference on July this year. And then this is the earlier this year, January and February, I visited Delhi, Kanpur, and Lucknow, and Taj Mahal. And then Dr. Rajesh Jain and I visited the Ministry of Health in India, and then we met the Dr. Baswal. He's the Deputy Commissioner of the Indian government, and then Dr. Rajesh Jain, and then the doctors. So earlier this year, I met so many Indian doctors, and we talk about my DND efficacy. But usually, earlier this year, I talk about the T2DM, but today is a little bit different. I have the results. That's the T1DM. As you know, in the globe, nearly 500 million people suffering from the diabetes. And then in Korea, we have nearly 5 million people. Our national population is 50 million, but nearly 10% of the population is the diabetes patients. And then here, presumably in India, it'll be more than 80 million people, right? More than. And the USA will be 32 million. And then China, it'll be 130 million people. They are suffering from the diabetes. So I can say DND can be kind of a solution for the problem. And then also the DND, the patent applications are already completed last year, including South Korea and India, China, European countries, Vietnam, and the GCC, and the United States or the Australia, and Japan too. And then trademark registration in World Intellectual Property Organization, and then the already registered about the DND. This is my company headquarters, and then this company will produce mass production possible at the end of this October this year. And then we celebrate the opening ceremony last month. This is a sample for the DND, and then yesterday we tested this DND sample to the Dr. Ashish's hospital, and then maybe it was 10 from the 2.5 years old to the nearly 20s, and then some of them have a good result. Later it'll be Dr. Ashish's explanation more about it. And then the people here in my office, the T1DM patients are waiting in line to be supplied the DND because they already experienced, and then the results are really positive. So they are waiting. And about my research result, it will be published to the Food Science and Nutrition. The entire glucose lowering effect of Gryllus bimaculatus. Do you know what is the Gryllus bimaculatus? That is kind of edible insect. Edible insect, like a similar name to the cricket, playing cricket in India. That's the name of Gryllus bimaculatus. That's a cricket, edible insect. It is widely declared as a food in the developed countries, including South Korea too. So it is using the Gryllus bimaculatus powder against streptozotocin-induced diabetes through AKT and mTOR pathway. Actually, I am not from the medical side. My major is mechanical engineering. You will be surprised to see. I'm a mechanical engineering oriented. So for the animal test, we induced the streptozotocin, and then we used the rats, 180 rats. So this is the IACUC experimental facilities in Korea. And for the experiment, every guidelines under the AAA LAC, international guidelines, and then we have the IACC approval, and then for the ILB CRO, and very strict guidelines, we conducted our experiments for the in vivo experiment to have positive results against the diabetes. This is very small, but for in vivo design rats, the DND dosages were different. We three lower dosages, and middle, and higher dosages. From the results, it very highly dependent onto the dosages. So T1DM rats, 14 groups of 180 rats were used for the experiment, and then orally feeding. And then our objective for the IACUC was to therapeutic effects on DND to T1DM animal models. And then a normal control IP injection, and the diabetes group control, and then GB, altogether streptozotocin and 65 milligram per kilogram IP injection, and then GP powered feeding. And then IP injection and the oral feeding 4 weeks. So the criteria for making the diabetic rat was more than 300 BG level. And then for the analysis, HbA1c level, and then C-peptide, and then insulin secretion, and then the histological analysis, and also side effects for the liver and the kidney were analyzed. To make a long story short, because the time slot is very limited, and then I will skip the animal test. Usually I'll focus on the T1DM patient, 9 patients, and T2DM patients. So this is general for the animal experiment. Those are weight. We tested about the weight loss, and then the food consumptions, and then the water intake, and then the what's this? Pancreas weight, and then the fasting, and then IPGTT. As you see, the fasting and the IPGTT, it shows the greatest difference between the vehicle and then the, this is the DND we call. Oh, one thing, I use the materials, 3 materials, DND 1, 2, 3. DND 1 is 100% is edible insect ingredient. DND 2 is like for the Indian people who have the kind of allergy, or the vegetarians only. So DND2 has no edible insect, no animal proteins, just natural grains. And the DND3 is combination of DND1 and DND2. DND3 is made for the for better taste and better flavor. So all those 3 materials of DND show the greatest effects against the diabetes. And then this is the ITT test. You see the big difference. This is DND1, DND2 mixed choice to DND2, and DND plus mixed choice, we call it as DND3. And then also we check the HbA1c level. This is the normal level, and then with the streptozotocin induced increase. But as you see, this is the DND1 group, DND2 group, DND3. And then with the higher dosage, and then the HbA1c level is abruptly decreased. This is just during the 4 weeks of feeding. And then the C-peptide. And then insulin secretion is very important and very significant for the diabeticians. As you know, this is the normal control groups. And then these are streptozotocin. And then the C-peptide level, you see, this is a low level of dosages, it is middle and higher. And according to the dosages, the better C-peptide level, and you will see the improvement during the 4 weeks. And then DND2, DND3 also dosage dependent. And you will see the insulin secretion level. Those are normal, and then the streptozotocin, and the DND1, DND2, DND3. And the secretion level is increased according to the dosages, higher dosages. For the dietitians and then the endocrinologists, every expert or medical doctors will be extremely interested in these 4 figures. Those are for the pancreatic beta cells. And those are normal groups, as you see, normal size, but with the streptozotocin induced, the beta cells destroyed. But this is the lower level, middle level, higher level. As you see, this one is the DND1, DND2, DND3. So we have the 3 materials for DND. And then a lower level of DND, middle, higher, as you see, destroyed, and then 4 weeks later, lower, and the middle, higher. Nearly recover from the decreased state to the normal. And then the DND2, lower, middle, and higher. And the DND3 too, lower, middle, higher. It is meant by that the improvement from the destroyed pancreatic beta cells, and then possibly it will increase the insulin secretion automatically inside our body. So this is the insulin secretion. Those are normal, but with the streptozotocin induced, you see, nearly nothing. But the lower, middle, higher, insulin secretion is increasingly improved. And the DND2, this is DND2, you see, during the 4 weeks. And also DND3 has the great improvement. So this is the dosage dependent, but we have to check about the side effects if we have, even though the DND has the efficacy against the diabetes. So we check about the liver and kidney side effects. This is for the liver. No side effects at all. And those are kidneys. No side effects at all. So we have very good confidence over the animal experiment. So that's why we intended to have a test at the hospitals and the clinic center from the human beings. You see, this is the, actually this is very difficult for me, very complicated, because I'm not a medical doctor, but as you are the experts, you will see. The streptozotocin here, induced, and then the BCL2 and BAX, cleavage caspase 3 and beta-actin show the good results. So you see, those, every biomarkers, medical biomarkers are scientifically proven. And the next figures are too. It shows the great results over the type 1 diabetes mellitus. You see? So the brief conclusion over the T1DM animal test, the reduction of the water and food intake using the DND, and also the fasting PG level was reduced, and then IPGTT and ITT was improved, and then C-peptide level and insulin secretion. It showed a great difference with the vehicle group, and then histological analysis showed the increase of total idle area for insulin secretion, and then the generation of destroyed beta cells, and then recovery of insulin secretion. That is from the animal experimental results we have. So we tested for the human beings. We tested more than 100 patients from 30 hospitals and clinic center in Korea, and then the results show the good prevalence over the DND, that It doesn't matter what type of patient diabetes, type 1 or type 2. So the electronic insulin pump people, and then the juvenile diabetes mellitus, and then the medications, and then what type of insulin injections patients take. It doesn't matter with the DND. So in modern medical society, T1DM is known as insulin dependent, so produces little or no insulin, so non-curable, irreversible. So kind of exaggerative advertisement they are telling me in front of me. But anyway, I made it and DND did it. So I can say type 1 DM without insulin injection, but I'm not aggressive to the company for making the insulin injection or the medications. Anyhow, we can say, we can have the confidence type 1, it is curable and reversible. Here I have 9 patients who are serious state in their type 1 diabetes. Case 1 is 55 years old male and detected to have T1DM after diagnosed T2DM, and he suffered nearly for 20 years. His complications from the diabetes, nearly 10 kinds. And then the retinopathy, he got surgery 4 times. And then he has the diplopia, and he cannot work freely. He cannot drive a car. And then the hearing impairment, his hearing is 98 decibel. And the halt is loss, and the myocardial infarction, and then hemiparalysis. His C-peptide level was 0.19, and then insulin injection, 56 units, no rapid. And then his HbA1c level was more than 11 before meet the DND. And then his triglyceride was 400. But 1.5 years later, eating DND as a meal, just daily meal, just once a day, his T1DM normalized. And then now, it is 1 and 2 months passed, and then no insulin injection needed anymore. And then his C-peptide is normalized, and then HbA1c level is really good, 5.4. And then insulin is normal. And then his FVG and PP2 is also normal too. He takes the DND as a meal once a day. That's why it took quite long months, 1.5 months. You will see next case. This is 14 years old, girl. Diagnosed to have T1DM, suffered from diabetes for just 2 years before DND. And the complications, very serious hypoglycemia during the day and night. And then had to go emergency room like a home. And then C-peptide was 1.7. Insulin injection 4 times, 30 units daily basis. And then Tresiba 12 and the Humalog 477 between meals. Her HbA1c level more than 16. One important thing is anti-GAD-AB was 44. Even though her C-peptide level was more than 0.6, she has the GAD level is higher. So, just with for 6 months, she took the DND twice a day, and during the vacation, she took 3 times as a meal. So just into 6 months, she normalized. C-peptide, you see, normal. HbA1c is getting from the 16 to 7.2. And the insulin secretion is more than enough. And then her anti-GAD level is getting lower. And then PP2VG is slightly higher because HbA1c level is 7.2. So maybe if time goes by around 6 months to go, she will be okay. She will be normalized. And then case 3. This is the 24 years old male detected to have T1DM just right after military service in Korea. Complications, unintended weight loss from more than 100 kg through 87 kg. And then the frequent urination and extreme hunger and fatigue every morning. And the FPG, you see, more than 400. C-peptide is lower than normal. And the insulin injection, 60 units daily. And then Toujeo 30. And the Epidra, 10 BT mils. His HbA1c is more than 12. TG is, can you think of it? 1,400 when he diagnosed. Unbelievable. Anyhow, he normalized after DND food just in 45 days. Just in 45 days. And then no insulin injection, he had 60 units daily basis, but now no more, not anymore. And then without insulin, it is 10 days past. So normal. So FVG level is below 110, and then PP2 is around 10 to 130. And then scheduled co-serum test this month. Okay, let's look at another 19-year-old girl. She's a cold flare, but she has the complications and the hypoglycemia and the urination, hunger, and fatigue. And her FVG, when she was diagnosed, more than 360. And the CPAP is nearly normal. But her insulin injection was 60 units daily basis, Lantus 30, Himalaw 10 BT mils. Her HbA1c is more than 13, and then her anti-IgA is 19. Should it be negative, or should it be less than 1? But 19. She just in 58 days normalized. She got the DND when she know the DND and just once a day as a meal. But time goes by, she selected twice a day and then 3 times a day. So just in 58 days, she getting normalized, and then 15 days passed without insulin anymore. So no hypoglycemia every day and night, and then but slightly higher during her menstrual period. Let's look at the case 5. She's 7 years old. Actually, yesterday at Dr. Ashish Hospital, I met a girl. She was 2.5 years, right? 2.5 years old? Yeah, she was very young. So she is 7 years old. When she was 3 years old, she was diagnosed. Complications, as you know, mostly for T1DM patients, the common thing is the hypoglycemia at night. So urination, hunger, and the fatigue. Her FVG was more than 160. And then PP2 is more than 300. Insulin injection, 28 units for 7 years old girl. And the traceba 11, Himalaw, 466 BT mils. HbA1c level is 7%, but the real problem is her C-peptide level is really lower, 0.02. But it is 6 months for her to eat the DND. Her reduction of insulin from 27, now she usually 6.5 through 7.5. You see, traceba 5 and a Himalaw. In the morning, no. Is it dinner? No. So just in 6 months later, nearly 2/3 of the insulin injection withdraw. So now 15 days without insulin during the breakfast and dinner. So her FABG and PP2 is stabilized, but sometimes she is now a growth hormone effect. She is 7 years old. Then slightly higher on and off. So in a sense, for the 7 to 15 or 17 years old, I think it is kind of the problem for the hormone. And then for girl, the menstrual period, and then the growth hormones. I think the DND is efficacy is better than the girl for men, for adult. Now look at the case 6. He is 48 years old male, and then they are diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, stage 5. Stage 5. So complications, kidney transplantation last year, July. And then severe retinopathy, 10 times of surgery. FBG, 390. PP2, 486. Insulin, 78 units. Tresiba, 36. Novorapid, 14 50 mils. And then HbA1c, 8.6. But the C-peptide is really lower, 0.02, below. His bond was 27, and then insulin was 0.47. But just in 2 months, no insulin injection needed anymore. Think about his previous insulin injection, 78 units daily. He got transplanted his kidney, and then without insulin, and then the blood glucose level is both normal a day, and then even though HOMA, insulin resistance from 5.33 to 1.13. Yeah, this one should be less than 2.5. You see, normalized. Let's take a look at case 7. He is 59 years old male, diagnosed 15 years ago at G2DM. His complications, kidney cancer. He got surgery, kidney cancer. It was 2018. And then hypoglycemia. EL is like his own. FBG more than 240, PP2 235, and the insulin pump 64 units daily basis, and then hemoglobin 23, 18, 23. And then HbA1c level, more than 8. His C-peptide is 0.4. So his insulin injection needed during the breakfast and dinner for 2 months, but he's a CEO of the company, so he has to have a lunchtime together. So during the lunchtime, insulin is, as usual, 14 through 16. Without insulin during the breakfast and dinner, his FVG-PP2 is both normal every day. And the freedom from hypoglycemia. And number 8. He is 19 years old male, diagnosed 4 months ago, and the complications also hypoglycemia. FBG more than 340, and the PP2 is 250. Insulin injection 56 units, and the Tresiba hemoglobin, and then HbA1c nearly 8, and the C-peptide is lower, 0.02. His TSH is 6.5, a little bit higher than the normal. And his anti-GAD is a little bit higher. So reduction of his insulin injection during the breakfast and dinner time, no insulin, and then DND as a food for 25 days. Only 25 days. So he's a university student, so lunchtime is usually together, So lunch hour, 7 and 20. So without insulin, twice a day, his fasting and then PP2 level is quite stable. And the last one for the T1DM patient. She's a 49 years old female, diagnosed at T2DM 2 years ago, but conditions are extremely degenerated, complications, and then liver and severe hypoglycemia. And FBG PP2 is higher. Insulin injection is 36 units, and the Tresiba 12, PS 7, HbA1c level 6.7, but her C-peptide level is really lower. And then the insulin secretion is just 1. But, you see, how dangerous. Her anti-GAD-AB is more than 100. Should be less than 1, but more than 100. Reduction of insulin injection Tresiba 0, PS 070, identified for 65 days. Her insulin level from 36 to 7 units only a day. And then as a Korean woman, she has to have lunch with the companies. So only lunchtime our insulin is 7. So as you see, we have the 9 T1DM patients. It doesn't matter with their HbA1c level or the C-peptide or the FBG or PP2BG levels or the anti-GAD level, lower, higher, and the insulin secretion level is, it doesn't matter with the D&D. They recovered abruptly. Their reduction level of the insulin injection is quite greatest. For the human trials, this is there for T2DM. And then the lots of complications, as you know. This is for the 2 cases for T2DM here, postprandial and FBG. And the case 1 is the 63 years old. Case 2 is the 60 years old, female. His PP2 is more than 380, just during the 5 days, gradually decreased. And then the fasting is from 280, nearly 102, getting normalized. Yesterday at Dr. Ashish's hospital, we tested to the patient, nearly 10 patients. And then after my presentation, Dr. Ashish will tell about more precisely about the patient, the T1DM patient, okay? And then this is the, another case, 60 years old female, her 332, and then the FBG was 284, and then getting normalized. Just during the 5 days happens. And now we check just the shortest time, and then the 2 months duration. And then every case show the T2DM. Nearly the smallest is more than 25%. Maximum is more than 50% of the reduction. And then here I have the worst cases for the T2DM. Here, his PP2, we checked for 8 days. His more than 430 PP2. You see, getting lower and then normalized in 8 days. And then the fasting, more than 430, 102, normalized. You see the average, on the average, his PG level is for 8 days, 69% and 52% reduction. Here, we have one more worst cases. Just 10 days, his PP2 was 289, and then 10 days later, 120, normalized. insulin level injection was 100 units. In 10 days, 20. 80 reduction. He has so many complications from the diabetes. As you see, this is my summary for the human beings, T1DM and T2DM. So I, as an inventor of the DND, I confirm the therapeutic and preventive effects for diabetes, T1DM and T2DM patients. So as you ladies saw the result, it doesn't matter their HbA1c level, C-peptide, or anti-GAD anymore. And then T1DM, T2DM, the patients normalize. Every medical biomarkers are getting normalized. Very shortest period. If she or he takes a day, just a day, once a day as a meal, and it took more than 1.5 years, but twice, 3 times as a meal, nearly 50 days, 60 days, his or her, every biomarkers are improved. And then the removal of insulin electrolyte pump, and then the injection, maximum less than 2 years. So the complications, and the retinopathy, neuropathy, and the urination, and even the edema, and the hypertension, and the hypoglycemia, and then the hemiparalysis and diplopia. So we experienced from the patient, I selected the patient for the T2DM patient, the worst cases. And then the T1DM patient, they are waiting in line, so they are waiting me, just please come back earlier to Korea. They want to receive their DND this month. So thank you again about my DND research result. And then actually, earlier this year, when I visited Delhi and then the Kanpur, Taj Mahal, to the Dr. Rajesh Jain, at the Dr. Rajesh Jain's hospital, how many? Two patients? Yeah, 3 patients were tested using the DND. Maybe he will help us to explain about more his patients. And also Dr. Ashishi. Okay, yeah. So we have reports today. Just yesterday it was just once as a meal. So please.
Yesterday, we have given DND to 8 type 1 diabetic patients. So, the rule of this is it is a replacement therapy, and the patient should not eat anything before taking this, means like right. It is a replacement therapy. The patient has to be, was advised to take breakfast, and then they can take some liquids during the period, and then in the lunch, we have given them this DND powder in water, and out of 8 patients, 7 has reported after 2 hours, and 3 patients have already taken some meal prior taking this product. So their reports were not so good, but the other patients, one Hemlata, her postprandial previously was 296 day before yesterday, and after taking DND, her post meal was 186, and the Jasleen Kaur, her sugars were near about 296. It came to 180 after taking DND. So like this, in 4 patients we got very good results, and in other patients who have taken the meal just prior or 1 hour or 2 hours prior to taking this powder, so they didn't show any good results. So basically what I have seen, it is like a meal replacement therapy, and how it is working to reduce the blood glucose levels. Can you explain how it is reducing the blood glucose?
As an ingredient for the DND, 3 materials together, we have the more than 20 anti-diabetes ingredients into the D&D materials. So that's why.
So whether there is some GLP-1 response, GLP-1 agonist or some?
I don't know.
It is made up of cricket. Jingur.
Genuine. Yeah, and then mostly if I emphasize on the nutrition, there is magnesium and zinc is better than the meat, animal meat.
Rajesh sir, can you give some light on this?
Hello. Actually, total I have initiated my
work together with the D&D, I hope. Thank you.